welcome back to the Entertainment Roundup. I'm J77. How you guys doing? I'm doing a response to the JonTron situation that has happened last week. I have said 24 hours ago in the original live podcast that I need to really know the full situation before I give my whole honest opinion. I did not want to actually talk about it without actually getting all the facts first. I really wanted to have to hear the conversation from both JonTron as well as the person who was hosting the show, Destiny, on his Twitch stream, and just take it from there. Because one, the last thing I wanted to do was base my opinion on somebody else's opinion. I wanted to get all the facts straight. It's one of the reasons why I said until I get all the information, until I actually hear from myself what was the big controversy, what was the big hoopla, I was just going to keep my opinions to myself until I collect all the facts from the podcast itself. And I did. I listened to the podcast. It was 2 hours long. JonTron, of course, was there for an hour and 20 minutes. And it was a debate. It was definitely a heated debate. I also have taken a chance to listen to at least three social site shows that had talk about the issue. The Double Toasted Gang with Corey Coleman, Martin Thomas, and them. They had their 2 cents to talk about. There was a guy who I'd never seen before, but I was kind of curious as to what he had to say. He had his 2 cents about it, and he was mostly on the side of JonTron. Double Toasted was pretty much against what JonTron, what he was doing, basically calling him out as a bigot for some of the comments he have said. And you have Bookie198, who was in the middle. He was actually the middleman in the whole situation, saying he didn't agree with everything that JonTron says, but it is his opinion, and he respects his opinion, and he likes to even talk about it more. And he even go on to say some interesting comparisons towards people who have these opinions being ridiculed by a lot of the people, whether they're fans or whether they're other businesses who see it as an opportunity to knock them down, basically ruin their reputation. Case in point, PewDiePie, which I didn't do any big stink about it. I did mention it on What's News. Of course, I also mentioned it a little bit, but with Josh Skin and a co-host of mine from J&J Mondays, but I didn't make it as a big deal as to, basically go out and blast the guy. I basically wanted to see what their own feelings about this. Personally, I think that, in my own opinion, I am siding with most of the people on the social side of YouTube and saying that Wall Street Journal has no business criticizing or blasting PewDiePie for a bad joke that went horribly wrong. He's already been punished enough with YouTube Red being removed from him, and I'm pretty sure in due time when things cool down, he's probably going to get it back. With him being fired from Disney, I think that was more of the big shot moves of doing things than anything else. But I think what Wall Street did was trying to add more fuel to the fire, and nobody, including myself, was going for that. So I think he made those comparisons to that, and I see his point being done because a lot of people are either undescribing to JonTron or basically calling him out to be a racist or a bigot. There was tons of that on YouTube, basically having response videos, and some of them was not good. But again, I wanted to hear it from the man's mouth what was being said, and most importantly, what led to all this, which, for what I understand, was from a politician saying something that is completely ridiculous, completely out of line, and this is the person who was supposed to be representing the people that brought him in, yet he's saying stupid stuff like that. It really, I'm more alarmed by what these guys are saying, because unlike JonTron, he doesn't have the power to change laws or implement laws that could affect a group of people. This guy does. Well, what JonTron did do was defend his principles of defending what he called his race, basically defending his race from being the minority, if you want to say that, and even brought up the Hitler reference of Nazis, which to this day I still don't know what that means. I don't know what he was implying to that, why he felt the need to do that, but this was pretty much what sparked the whole podcast to begin with, him being a guest. And for the most part, I'm kind of glad he was a guest. I'm kind of glad he did bring up these issues. Both sides did a good job of, if anything, bringing out these issues that is still, whether it's publicly or even privately, are still being felt by the masses today. To say that they don't feel this way is ridiculous. Let me just go on the record here on saying this. Am I upset with JonTron, what he says? Am I, this enraged where I'm going to unsubscribe to his channel? Because I do subscribe to his channel. I do subscribe to JonTron. I have to consider him as a funny guy. Love his content. Love what he put on the table for entertainment. And I have nothing wrong with what he has done. I think that he is a very good video game analysis, as well as a good movie reviewer when it comes to nostalgic stuff. So I have no gripes about his talent. He was once one of the co-hosts of Game Grumps. Of course, that he's no longer there, but there were a lot of stuff that he has done that I really do enjoy, and I think that that's something that you cannot take away from him. However, we do live in an age where politics and these type of opinions are very sensitive to a lot of people, to the point that if you bring it out, there's a chance that many people will call you racist or a bigot just for having these opinions. And right off the bat, I don't hate him for what he feels. It is, after all, his opinion. Am I disappointed from some of the stuff he said? Absolutely. Is it going to be enough for me to say I'm going to unsubscribe or leave hateful messages on his YouTube channel or Twitter or any other social media that he chooses to congregate in? No. To me, no, I'm not going to do that. I never do that with even people who I unsubscribe for various reasons. I won't do it to him. But what I will say is I'm kind of disappointed in some of the stuff that he had brought up, particularly in denying the fact that discrimination don't exist. I think that was the one thing that made me just go like this when I heard from his own mouth, that he actually believed that discrimination does not exist. It does exist. It's still stronger than ever, and it's more reworded than I think people have tend to realize. With that being said, there are a few things that I do tend to agree with him about, especially how people tend to hang on to the past as an excuse to do crazy, stupid, criminal things here and now. You can't, keep holding the past as a crouch and blaming one group of people for problems that, let's be honest, are caused mainly from ourselves, our own deviant behaviors. So I do agree on that aspect of it. At the same time, there were some things that I felt he should have been a little bit better on. I think the one thing that grabbed my attention about the whole podcast was the fact that he keeps bringing up other countries. And he keeps, every time those questions keep going on, he seems to try and push other countries involved. That's something I think that was a mistake, and I think the fact that he was not knowledgeable of that race wasn't just about blacks, but even the Irish immigrants who came to this country, they was also looked down upon as not being white, but more of a different race, nationality. They was very, very put down upon. Most people who came from European countries were put down upon. And being a New Yorker and been studying New York history, nothing can be more said than what has happened in the 1800s, all the way to the great riots during the Civil War era. Even towards the Industrial Revolution, where that was a big hot topic issue. Those are the things that hurt him. The Black Lives Matter movement, of course, was very interesting when that was brought up, and he has brought up his own experience, which I'm actually kind of curious of the experience that he has dealt with the Black Lives Movement, because it gives me a more clear picture of what he's been going through. I felt that the fact that he is among many other people, not just him, many other people who believe the Black Lives Movement is a bunch of thug organization, forgetting the fact that the reason why it even exists is because of the policies that a lot of police departments have in inner cities in dealing with black and Hispanics, and not in a more respectable way, but more of an an aggressive way. This is something that happened in our court system in New York, where it went all the way to the civil court with the stop and frisk, with them actually putting you against the wall. And just for the record, that alone, that kind of embarrassment, that demeaning stuff, is not something that paints a good picture when people are passing by. Because the first thing they're gonna say, oh, that guy must have did something wrong. That's why they're patting him down. That's why they're searching him, because he did something wrong. He's selling drugs or whatever. They don't take consideration that he's just being searched just for the sake of being searched, because they feel that that's the best way to keep crime down. There's a whole lot of reasons why the Black Lives Movement exists, and none for the reasons why a lot of people feel they're a bunch of thugs causing problems. That's not the case, and I think this is where that big divide has come in here. One side sees it one way, the other side sees it the other way. There's really no middle ground, and here I didn't really get that middle ground with that. I think one side had brought up some points of view, the other side brought up some interesting viewpoints. A lot of stuff from Destiny I do disagree with, as well as a lot of stuff I do disagree with JonTron. I think in the end it was just that solid debate that I think a lot of people want to have, but either afraid to have because they will come out too right or too left, or just don't want to be called out as racist. Do I think JonTron is a racist? No. I think JonTron is a little bit misinformed on some of this stuff, but I don't think he's a racist at all. I'm not going to label him as a racist at all, and I think anybody who do label him as a racist haven't really paid full attention to that podcast as much as I have. And I'm being realistic here. I mean, you have to really pay attention and listen to the arguments that it's have. Both sides brought up some very strong, very intense arguments for why they feel the way they feel. And these are arguments that still is going on today. These are topics still going on today. And the strange thing about it did start out with why whites feel uncomfortable about being the minority in this country. That's how this thing started out. I don't think anyone really answered that correctly. I think that JonTron has sprung up the tribal scenario, which I think that anybody who thinks about a tribal situation, that's very dangerous. There's also this idea that one group of people should be represented by one person, another group of people should be represented by a person. That's something I don't agree with. I think if you're my representative, and you're whether a government official or a presidential official, you should represent everyone and not just certain group of people just for the sake of pleasing that group of people. I think that leads to a lot of problems. And there is also the problem, of course, that I felt no one really truly have actually resolved, nor I expect it to be. There is this very strong allusion to go back to the good old days, where the good old days, let's be honest, was not really that good, especially among certain ethnic groups. So these are the things that has really have came on very, very strong. And again, they brought up both of them, despite what you may feel about what JonTron has said or Destiny has said. Both of them have brought up very interesting, strong topics that a lot of people across the country in the United States of America feels today. Whether you agree or disagree with it, people actually do feel the way they feel, from the left and the right. And my feeling about this, my beef about this, is that there is so many people who believe in this and you only believe in that, and so many people believe in this and not believe in that. There is no middle ground. And speaking to my friend about this before making this video, he said there's a fear that if you meet that middle ground, that means they have to own up to their own stuff, their own mockery, and nobody wants to deal with that. They rather just put the blame on someone else than look at themselves. That's a legitimate argument as well, because again, every time we get to that situation, we always seem to pull ourselves back, always try to pull the country back for the sake of staying in that comfort zone, because change is very, very scary. Change is something that nobody really wants, especially when they're comfortable doing something for so long. They don't want change to be forced upon them. They don't want change to be placed upon them by law or anything else. They just want to keep things to where it is, because in their feelings, that's the way it was for them, and that's the way it should be, even if the fact that the age we're living in, we have to change to adapt. we're living in a different age. A perfect example is jobs. The jobs that are coming out now are not going to be the same jobs down the road. We're slowly moving into technology where you have to be tech savvy. Otherwise, you're going to be way behind. And the jobs that they're hoping to get back, I don't see it. The jobs that have left this country, I'm sorry, they're not coming back. I mean, that's how I see it. That's how I'm going to see it. But there are people still holding hope for these jobs to come back. So there's a whole lot of stuff that was sprung into this that I have gotten from this conversation. And again, I'm not looking at JonTron as being the absolute savior. There are a lot of stuff I disagree with. I feel that there was a lot of stuff that I think he has allowed a certain mass media to influence. But then not to say that Destiny have done the same thing. I mean, the one thing I will say about it is, if you let mass media influence you, they're gonna influence you in a way that's not always accurate. That's why I don't always go by what any news have said. You have to do your research. You got to be very careful. You got to be mindful of what they're being said. Rhetoric is very dangerous and can be poisonous and toxic to the country. And if you let those not accurate facts dictate what you feel, it could dictate a lot of the actions that you take. Keep in mind, when Trump got elected, he ran on a very hateful platform. That when he got elected, you had a lot of people feel emboldened to do hateful, stupid things to the point where now it's become criminal. New York had an incident, I've repeated this before and I'll say it again, where a lady was thrown down the steps because she was Muslim in the subway platform. Thrown down the steps. We had people doing swastikas in the dead of night. Doing this to be inspired because they feel emboldened. They feel that this is their country now. So because Trump is elected, do you feel that all of a sudden that gives you free range to break the law? That this is how that kind of thinking comes in, and this all stems from hateful rhetoric that was being spawned here by our officials. And I say officials more so than anything else because, yeah, you have people who feel this way, but our officials who are supposed to be responsible, who are supposed to unite the country, in reality, they're using this weapon to keep power. And that's the whole thing why these conversations need to be happening. These conversations must happen, and we must find that middle ground. Again, I applaud these guys for doing this. I applaud them for having this debate. And I think that for those who want to say that JonTron is racist, I think you need to hear what he's saying and really ask yourself, is he the only one that feels this way? Is he the only one that feels the way he feels? Because I guarantee there's a whole lot of people, even those who are stuck up from that, feel the same way and said even far more worse than what he has said. And even he went on and said, and I believe he said, look, I want everybody to have an equal share in this country, but he also feels that there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, which leads to me about how Destiny continued to throw the Jim Crow law into the mix. And I'm like, you're throwing something here. You're not only listening to what JonTron is saying, you're not understanding what he is trying to imply, and that is violence in the black community. And the way Destiny was saying, it make it sound like that the reason why this happened is because what happened in slavery time, what happened during the time of segregation. And I'm like, no, you can't make that excuse for someone else's actions. If they committed a crime and put themselves in the system, which, by the way, I do agree, the system is heavily stacked against the minority's favor. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's not just race. It's more about affording the right kind of lawyer. Basically the laws that are that has been imprinted within certain jurisdictions. So there's a whole lot more to it than just race. But yeah, he's right. There is a very disadvantaged and a very biased system when it comes to our courts. Yet at the same time, you can't fault the court system for someone who does something deliberately that put them in that kind of system to begin with. Perfect example: those idiots who kidnapped this mentally disabled white man, basically saying all sorts of hateful, stupid stuff. Now these people are facing kidnap charges, which holds a hefty sentence. Is that the fault of the white man? No, that's their own fault. What the hell Come on, I don't care how old they are. They know better from right and wrong. You committed a crime. You kidnapped. You assaulted a person. You held a person against their will. How is that Jim Crow's fault? How's that stemming all the way back to Jim Crow? Jim Crow. These people need to be responsible for their actions. And this is something I think that JonTron was trying to say. And I think that he didn't word it as properly as he could have. But he was saying that violence amongst blacks is very, very serious, and it needs to be addressed. The same thing goes with pretty much anything. Violence, period, needs to be addressed. But I felt that what Destiny was trying to do is say, okay, all this is happening because of the oppression and how they don't have hope for something to happen in the 1800s, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And to say that's not really accurate, considering the fact that, again, if I committed a crime, that's me committing a crime. I have no one to blame but myself if I get caught and get convicted. That's the whole thing, and I think this is something that I felt Destiny has really got off the mark on there, and I kind of wish he would have stopped with that. And I even say they need to stop with that white guilt thing, because again, you can't blame. You can only look at so much before you gotta say, hey, look. These men out there, they're doing stupid stuff. They got to be held accountable for the stuff they have done. End of discussion. That goes for anyone, for that matter, by the way. So I think that was the whole thing that really bothers him, that he seems to focus back on that issue. And I'm like, yeah, but someone committed a crime is someone committed a crime. What I will dispute is the fact that a lot of people believe straight up and down, from even looking at the news or looking at statistics from either a left wing or right wing, that's actual factual statistics. Keep in mind that's not always true, and keep in mind that's basically based on someone else's opinion and scenario. Another case example is how this guy who was siding with JonTron had turned on some guy who I never heard before. I looked him up and then I said, okay, that's good, but you know what? He's giving not really much factual facts here, but more of an opinion of something. It doesn't give me an actual fact study. Even Double Toasted have shown their own things they want to back up their claim at how the crime rate is not as explosive as it is that what JonTron was trying to say. So there's a lot of stuff you could actually look for yourself and say, okay, this is what it is. This is what's happening. And you'll see that it's not that crazy as a lot of people made out to be. When you hear it, you actually believe it, and then you actually look for something to back up what the other person is saying, so that even if the information could be falsified or basically based on opinionated doctrines, which is a lot out there, and it's become a huge problem because you can't really separate facts from someone's personal opinion. This is where that fake news come into play. So there was a whole lot of stuff that was sprung into it. And at the end of the day, when after I heard the stuff when JonTron left, I was really like, okay, that was interesting. I didn't came in angry. I didn't came in mad. I was disappointed with some of the stuff that JonTron had felt. But again, I looked at it and said, okay, that's his opinion. He's not going out saying all Jews must die, all blacks must be put behind bars. He is voicing an opinion, and some I don't agree with. There are some that is just simply out there. The wealthy black man will commit more crime than poor white man. That's just something that came out of left field. I just couldn't believe that came out of that. And it didn't help matters that you have a guy saying, oh, mostly rappers are committing crime than say the country music guys. I'm like, really, guy? You really gonna put that scenario on there? Are we really gonna go that deep? How many rappers you have listened to? How many rappers have gotten in trouble the last 5 years? Tell me. You're saying that Jay-Z Carter has committed a crime? Are you saying that all these rappers? There's tons of rappers out there. Give me a scenario. And you can't tell me that some of the musicians from country have gotten themselves in trouble as well. But it's a very bad statement to make, and I'm like, really? We're gonna go there? Are you saying Denzel Washington's committing crime? Come on. I feel that that's the whole thing. They're looking for some. Okay, this is what it is. Here's the proof. There it is. That's how it is, and that's it. Um, and after my whole issue about it is, I felt that the information that either he's misinformed about or he believes it for conservative media. And to me, that's a very big slippery slope to go through when you're doing that. It makes you sound that less intelligent than you are, and it also shows that you're feeding into the fear that a lot of these white supremacists and even blacks are fearing that these people are this, these people are that. We need to stay away from them. We need to protect our borders from these people. It's it's a whole lot of stuff that we really should be looking beyond that. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. And I'm hoping we will start making progress. But again, the only way we can probably make progress if we bring these issues into the surface, really bring these topics up in the front burner and not just keep them hidden, because it's not going to solve itself if we don't say anything about it. I applaud these guys for bringing this up. I applaud them for having this debate. Whether you agree with one side or another, the fact that they actually talk about it is good enough for me. And look, again, I'm not going to come there and sit there and bash JonTron and say he's this and this that. I'm not going to even say he's a bigot. I just feel that, okay, he's just misinformed about some things. But there are some things that I think that I do agree with what he said, especially taking responsibility for our own neighborhood, our own community. And I think that is a very, very strong statement to have. Again, I'm not going to unascribe. I do think that this is a situation that I think, if anything else, because he hasn't made a response video on this topic. I don't know if he's going to plan to, or he's going to stay at the spotlight for now. I haven't seen his Twitter feed, so I may have to post in this, see if anything came up. But I haven't seen anything in response video on that. But I hope it gives him a chance to think about what he said in a little bit and say, man, did I felt that was more bigger than what I am? Do I feel that my views pretty much feed into these views of a lot of these guys who deem themselves the superior race and feel that African Americans and Mexicans and those who are not Americans should not belong here and should be segregated and should be discriminated upon. I hope that gives him a chance to at least think about some of the stuff he says and what he actually meant by what he have said. Because again, there are some things he has an interesting viewpoint, but there's a lot of things that I think he completely dropped the ball. Not to say that the host didn't do any better either. There are some things that he dropped the ball in. I get a little annoyed when people keep bringing those past events as a crouch to continue to continue to hold himself back, hold himself down, and use it as an excuse to hate on people. I want to make this very clear, because I never forgot what this guy said, and it just rolled my eyes in this guy said, and that is, blacks are not capable of hate. Are you kidding me? Seriously? I was hated by an African because I was a black guy who needed assistance, and he felt that I shouldn't be having assistance, that I should be in this country and you shouldn't have assistance, you should work hard, and he didn't want to help me out. I ended up having him written up because of that situation. People look at me, oh, he can't be racist, he's black. I said, yes, no, he's racist because he don't look at himself as black, he looks at himself as African, Norwegian. This is something that he have said to me and looked down at me, and I ended up having to write him up so much that they had to acknowledge that, hey, you need to start doing something. This guy's writing him up, and it's heading to the main office. So the idea that we don't hate among ourselves, he can't experience hate. We hate among ourselves more so than we hate against anybody other race. We have problems with hatred ourselves, and the idea that we hate because we was the one experienced first is just ridiculous, and that's exactly what the guy says. I think that was kind of stupid of him to say it. So I think this is the idea that you want to hold someone back. No, you can't hold a grudge about something on someone for someone else's sins that happened hundreds of years ago. You can't do that. What you can do, what I've been saying for the longest, is learn from the past. learn the success of our ancestors as well as the failures. Learn about the dirt and the suffering that has happened, instead of just glamorizing on how beautiful this country is. Understand that this country had a lot of flaws into it, and understand that slavery, segregation was one of those flaws. It was a huge flaw, a huge stain in our country. Learn from that, understand why that happened, and make sure that kind of incident never happens again. That is the very, very strong key. Learn so that way it will never happen again. We tend to not learn from our mistakes, and because of that result, we continue to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. That's the thing. I've always said that history taught us anything. That history taught us what has happened when you segregate people. That history taught us what happens when you use hate as a weapon or as an excuse to pass laws. You know they're discriminatory. This is why I always say, please learn from history. Don't try and water history down. Keep the dirt and the muck, because it's important that we understand it. At times we tend to only look at the glory, but not the other stuff that led to that glory. And I think this is the same thing applies to what this debate was. There's a lot of stuff that have mentioned, but they seem to miss the point about why these issues are still a topic right now. There are people who believe they are afraid of being the minority. There are people who are afraid their country's being taken away for whatever reasons. There are reasons why they're afraid that they don't want certain immigrants to come to this country. They are afraid about something, and a lot of it has to do with change. Change is a very scary thing, and they don't want change to be forced upon them, even though eventually change will happen whether they want to or not. And I think these type of topics are very, very important. I think that what JonTron have done and what Destiny has done have showed what these topics at hand that are still a hotbed in American society today. Whether you're in the South, whether you're in the North, whether you're in the East, whether you're in the West, these topics still hits home to a lot of people. Black, white, Muslim, Hispanic, Asian, you name it. It still hits home. And that's something that I think that we all need to come together and find that middle ground. We're not in that middle ground. I discussed this with James Daniel Walls in What's News. We're more divided than ever, and it's all because we believe in a society that either A, never existed, or B, that has been long gone and never coming back. And we, instead of accepting it, we seem to fight against progress or fight against change because it's just too hard to change. But that's my opinion on the whole situation. Like I said, I'm not mad at JonTron. I am disappointed at some of the stuff he have brought up. But at the same time, I commend him for having the courage to come up in that stream. He didn't have to do that. Keep in my mind, he didn't have to go in that stream and have a debate. It was a very sensitive topic. It was a very sensitive issue. And I'm pretty sure he knew the risk he was facing when he got on there. I do not agree with Devil Toasted that he's a bigot. I think that that's a little bit kind of harsh. But I understand why they felt that way. They even brought their own information of themselves. They looked up some of the stats and statistics. I just feel that he is doing. He feels in his own way that this is the situation, this is the problem, and these are the issues at hand. That's why things are what they are right now. And he feels that every time when someone address this issue, he is deemed either racist or just a bigot or a homophobe, and that's not always the case. As you can see right now, this is only a week old, but people are starting to call people from certain websites have already posted thumbnails saying JonTron is a racist, and that was brought to my attention. I said, "What? Did I miss something?" And I actually have looked into it more further. I said, "Okay, I need to hear what was said in this stream, because for me it'd be wrong of me to actually post a comment without actually hearing what it is." And I heard what it is, and I'm like this: I'm not mad, I'm not ranting, I'm not raving, I'm not going to on his Twitter site saying all sorts of crazy things. These are his topics, these were his opinions. I also go on and said that, hey, Just like he had the right to opinion, do have people have the right to respond. And if they feel that he's hateful about it, so be it. Me, I don't. I just felt that he is misinformed about a lot of stuff, and I felt that he believes that the system isn't really on isn't really as complex and as discriminatory as many people may out to believe. Again, I'll say this with that is that it's easier for someone who has seen it from the outside, not from the inside. And I think he needs to talk to someone of color to understand the issues that continues to happen within the African American community as well as the Hispanic American community to fully understand why these topics still exist, why these issues still exist. And I think that's the thing I think he should have, at least if anything else, he should at least have that conversation with. Again, I didn't hear no response to him. But I didn't hear anything that came out from his channel, at least not yet. Hopefully he may give a little bit of response. I'm not looking for a PewDiePie response. I don't think he has anything to be ashamed of himself, but at least if anything else that came out of this, I hope he thinks about some of the issues and further explore the issues that continue to be a hotbed for African Americans and Hispanics, as well as Jewish, as well as the Muslim community. I think that if you look deep into it, you find it's not as simple as the left, the left and the right wings of politics always wanted to make it out to believe. Again, when it comes to politicians, I'm gonna be honest with you, they only look it out for votes. They don't care about the topic at hand. If they will say anything, they will say to get your votes. That's how I see it. I'm not buying the Democrats all have my interest at hand. I'm not buying the Republicans have my interest at hand. I believe that they will say what they have to say and will do anything as long as that gives them votes and people will follow them. So be it. That's how I see it. And that's how I see it with terms of JonTron. Now, Destiny, this is the very first time I've heard of him. I may dive into some more stuff just to see what his actual channel is, especially on Twitch. Like I said, there were some good points. He was spot on a lot of stuff that JonTron should have been aware of and should have been known about. But there was one thing that bothered me, and I'll say it again. Please stop using the past as a crouch for the stuff that people do now. If people commit a crime, that falls on them and them only, not on anybody else. You can only blame society for so much. You have to acknowledge that sometimes, hey, a person does things because one, they have deviant thoughts, two, they're greedy, three, they just do it just for the heck of doing it. That's reality here. A person needs to be responsible for their own actions. And for the record, it's not always those who are in poorly run neighborhoods. There are people in great neighborhoods commit crimes. So there are people who have families who have a lot of money and can't afford the stuff they can't commit crimes. So to say just that is just that one category is not consistent and just a little bit inaccurate in my opinion. Again, but this is my opinion, and that's the whole thing. These are opinionated debates. This is what JonTron thinks. This is what Destiny thinks, and these are the debate that to me that is healthy because it brings out an issue that a lot of people, whether you believe in one or the other, feels in their heart. And to say I'm going to hate this guy because he feels this way or he has an opinion this way, not going to happen. Sorry. I'm not going to subscribe to the guy because of that. I hope that he follow up on it. I hope that he actually have a chance to at least talk about it. I would love nothing more. I don't think it's never going to happen because I'm not even big up into that high scale. But I would love nothing more to even talk to him and get his idea and what his feeling is. The one thing I kind of wish that he explained is that he had an experience with the Black Lives Matter, that he's seen it with his own eyes. I wish he would have gone further onto that. I wish he would have gone further on that because that's very important. Your own personal feelings, your own personal experience with a group of people can actually shape what you feel about that group of people. That is something that I almost fell victim to myself And this is not too far back. And it reminded me that there are just good people out there who does care for you, does have your best interest at heart, who happens to be the opposite race. So keep that in mind when I say that. But the point being is that I didn't think he came off as bad as many of the people make him out to be. And I think that, look, he had an opinion. It wasn't that severe. He didn't say anything that to me that can be done hurtful towards the black community. He did bring up some issues that he feels, just like a lot of other people feels, whether you agree with it or not, in America, that there is an issue, there's a problem, but it isn't because of white race, and whites have the right to protect themselves from being a minority in this country. Now look, do I agree with that kind of thinking? No, I don't. But do I understand that thinking exists? Yes, I do. Just like I acknowledge that racism still exists. Just like I acknowledge that discrimination still exists. And there's this more within a local level than you possibly could imagine. So there you have it with my feelings on that. Again, normally I would have done this in the What's News, but like I said, being that both of these guys are entertainers, it was best to do it on this format and this format only. So again, I'll love to hear your opinion. I may leave some links to those who have different opinions on this matter. Double Toaster, of course, being one of them. Boogie 198, which was actually neutral, being one of them, and of course a guy who had his opinion towards JonTron. So you get 3 different opinions instead of just the one, including my own. So I like to hear your opinion on this. I like to hear what you have to say about this. Personally, I'm very glad that they brought this debate. It really got me to think about my own views, my own feelings towards this matter a lot more. And again, congratulations to JonTron and to Destiny for bringing this out. And I feel that if anybody wants to knock JonTron, I just got to ask you this one question. Just ask me this one question. What's your view? What's your feeling on what he said? Instead of basically going on the offensive of undescribing and being angry with him, ask yourself what's your feeling on this and what you really got out of this in terms of, one, your own policies, your own views of life, your own moral grounds, as well as how people think of you outside your race, as well as how people treat each other in their own race. And really sit down and think about it. Don't just give an impulsive reaction. Really think about it and ask yourself, what he says, is that far-fetched from what many people have said over the years, including within the black community? You'd be surprised. Until next time, J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.